Chris, could we do a spoon check?
Spoon check. Ooh, a mere 6 on this lovely Wednesday morning. I don't know, I'm sort of running low. I better sort of
Slow
pop
day
up
ahead of
behind
you.
me. Yeah, totally. I've got like 50 more here though, so. When we're talking about, okay, the Feel Good Food Plan, we're talking specifically today about your lunch strategy. And the thing about having a lunch strategy is, at least personally, my strategy is to try to do as little as possible, but get as much as possible out of whatever I do. So our strategy this year relies on this. Just a big pot of really nicely cooked chickpeas. Now, could you use chickpeas from a can? Absolutely you could. But the thing that making your own chickpeas gets you is that not only are the chickpeas themselves better because, you know, they're fully seasoned the way that you like, they have all the salt and kind of flavor inside the chickpeas themselves. And I don't know about you, but usually the chickpeas that I buy are kind of like a little bit flat, a little bit metallic, need a lot of help and definitely a lot of salt. But the liquid that you get with these chickpeas is what makes them so special. So I've made this really big batch of chickpeas, and I'm going to show you 2 ways that you can use them in 2 really easy to prepare lunches. It all starts with having beautifully cooked chickpeas that have tons of flavor in them. So I'm just rewarming these slightly just so they kind of get like nice and fluid again. Chickpeas have like all that aquafaba, right? You know, it has a ton of body and has a ton of richness to it. So you get something that's a little bit closer to like a, you know, it's like a chicken, you know, kind of stock, but one that's like super kind of rich and unctuous. So it's just one pound of soaked chickpeas. I think it's a couple of quarts of water, a quarter cup of olive oil, a few strips of lemon peel, which may seem weird, but it just adds like a really nice fragrance to the chickpeas and kind of a bright note. 1 sliced medium onion, and I think 6 cloves of garlic. Nothing's being sweated, you know, beforehand. Everything's just dumped into the pot, brought up to a simmer, and then simmered till tender. And usually soaked chickpeas can take, you know, around like an hour and a half, let's say, or 2 hours. And in that time, you know, you've got plenty of downtime to be working on any other kind of like weekend prep you want to be working on. So this is just a base that can get you to a lot of places. And you can kind of riff on this however you want. If you don't want to put the lemon in or onion or whatever, Tommy mentioned bay leaves. Absolutely, throw some bay leaves in here. It's just sort of the starting point. So in this case of like this kind of salad that we're going to put together here, and in the sandwich I'm going to show you, you're just assembling. You know, you don't have to make that much more additionally. You know, if you take some chickpeas, I'm just going to kind of drain some of this liquid off, but by no means do I want to discard the liquid. So I've got some chickpeas. I'm just going to kind of assemble this salad, you know, kind of right here on this plate. This is the kind of thing you can do super easily in the morning before you head off to work. There he is. Yeah. It's the happiest he's been all week. Andy's like back on the coffee sauce, and it's like, it's frankly good to have him back. You might notice. One bottle, you?
One bottle.
Wow. Andy.
I didn't go to the gym.
No. And is this your first cup of coffee? Okay. Okay.
New year,
okay.
new Andy.
I guess so. Look, not everybody loves radicchio. You may notice there is a plate full of nothing but radicchio here. But this is the thing, like, I love bitter greens. They just like absolutely do it for me. And they're super convenient from the standpoint of you don't have to wash them. Nobody is washing lettuce on a Wednesday morning before they head off to, you know, to work for the day. Cucumber, it's nice. It's easy to kind of cut up. I have some carrots I roasted, you know, yesterday. Just like super simple. This could be like roasted cauliflower, broccoli, you know, kind of just spread around. I'll kind of like work it in. Like I'm frankly often like make lunch for my wife. And like this is something I'll do, and I'll just kind of build in a container for her before I head off to work. These are 10-minute eggs. And by that I mean we lower the eggs into gently boiling water, and start timing 10 minutes from when the water returns to a boil. 10-minute kind of gives you this, where you have like a little bit of jamminess to the center of that yolk there, you know, but like the outer rim has kind of started to dry out. So this Tahini Ranch, Tommy mentioned he's a big fan. I'm a super big fan. There's something about tahini when it's balanced with olive oil, with thinned out with a little bit of water so it stays like nice and creamy and emulsified, and like bringing in that ranch flavor. And that can come from a number of places, but I think the things that are most key are onion powder and garlic powder, which kind of sound like a little bit weird, right? Because like, does anybody actually still cook with like onion powder and garlic powder? This is like a clear-cut case to absolutely make for having them in your spice cabinet. Part of the reason that they work so well is that fresh garlic is gonna kind of, the flavor is gonna build and intensify over time, and ultimately kind of like, the flavor profile is going to kind of mutate over time, where it's going to kind of probably get like real strong and then eventually turn like a little bit bitter on you. So it's kind of hard to gauge how much to put in there. You don't necessarily want that sharp garlic flavor. I feel like that's like a Paul Hollywood kind of like double hand gesture. I don't know. I feel like that's like hands like up here, kind of like a little bit of a grimace. Ungebaked, undepproved. Sorry, I've been watching so much Great British Baking Show. It's just like, it's like all in there. There are certain things you would do on the weekend that you're just never going to do on a weeknight. Like, I will never make chickpeas on a weeknight. I probably won't turn my blender on a weeknight, no matter how good a dressing is. But on a weekend, you know, in like the afternoon light of a Sunday where you're feeling kind of optimistic and positive about the world, yeah, I'll like bust out the blender. I'll find all the parts, you know. Each one is like a minimum of 3 pieces that your kids have kind of invariably hid in like various toy bins in the apartment. Point being, if you bring like a little container of this to your work, or just take it out of the fridge when it's time to kind of eat lunch at home, whatever, making this dressing on a weekend will set you up for the best week ever. So we've got our ranch on there, and then whatever herbs you might have on hand. I think we've built like flavor in a way that like you get from like a rich kind of creamy, you know, like kind of sour cream, and like you know, or like a buttermilk, you know, kind of like just tons of flavor. But we've done it in a way that's like, it's not like entirely obvious. And yeah, it's dairy free. And is it vegan? It's vegan. Boom. Vegan. You don't need all of the elements here, you know, to kind of make like a great like kind of lunch salad that travels well. It's easy to kind of assemble in the morning or really quickly, you know, in just kind of a few minutes. I'd say that's artful. Anna, do you want to be a salad friend?
Sure.
It's gluten-free. You're fired up. I'm fired up. Rhoda's fired up. Radicchio, because it travels super well. You could even dress it in the morning and it would probably hold up until lunch, no problem, if you didn't have a little sidecar for your dressing. Roasted vegetables, in this case, just carrots, but it could be anything, you know, if you want to include them or not.
Sweet potatoes?
No big deal. Sweet potatoes, absolutely. We've got that kind of elsewhere in like lunch and kind of dinner for Feel Good Food Plan. And then 10-minute eggs. And then the dressing is Tahini Ranch.
Gotta get a chickpea.
Mmm.
I love the fresh herb.
Mm-hmm.
How do you keep if you are bringing this to work, how do you keep the fresh herbs fresh?
I think you can pack I think you go one of two ways. You either pack everything in the container aside from the dressing, or you dress everything and pack it into the container and you keep the herbs on the side. Because in like a little damp paper towel, like they can hang out till lunch. No worries.
Very top.
Or on the very top, yeah. Now you can do layers, you know, absolutely. Like those like sand things you make as a kid with all the colors and stuff. Exactly, just like that.
It's not gonna be a pretty bite, so I'm gonna walk away.
Yeah. It's a walk away
Thank
bite.
you.
Cool.
Thanks, Chris.
All right. As long as you've got like, you know, little dressing, a couple of these elements, the chickpeas obviously, then you're good to go. This is lunch option number 1. So we're talking sandwiches for the Feel Good Food Plan kind of lunch component. And one thing that I think is cool that I didn't even know was a thing until this past year, so it's kind of been a big 2018 for me, is the mashed chickpea sandwich. It is so packed with flavor. It is so good for you. It's full of protein. It's nothing but protein. You know, I have kind of a, like maybe a cup and a half of chickpeas here drained that I'm going to use as kind of the base for the filling of this sandwich. I do want to make sure I take like all the kind of liquid, you know, out of these just so that it doesn't get too wet. So I'm going to be adding kind of additional olive oil, some yogurt for creaminess. Obviously you could use mayonnaise, but I feel like yogurt's a little bit more kind of on brand for Feel Good Food Plan. I'm going to do maybe, so this is going to be for 2 sandwiches. I'm going to start with like about a 1/4 cup of yogurt. I'm going to hit this with a little bit of lemon juice. I'm a big fan of capers, you know, in stuff like this, just because they're so punchy and give you such like good kind of sharp flavor. I'm only going to do, I don't know, it's a couple teaspoons. Roughly chopped, just so they kind of disperse a little bit more evenly, sort of spread the flavor around. Salt, as always. And then, I'm not like the biggest raw celery fan, but celery just has that ability to like give you that crunch and a little bit of contrast with that soft kind of meaty chickpea. So I'm just gonna do a quick chop on a little bit of this. All right, and then a fork to mash should get you most of the way there. It might take, you know, a minute, a little bit of sort of assiduous mashing to kind of smash those chickpeas apart, get them a little bit creamy, get them to kind of bind all these flavors you've added, all the textures. Okay, all right, I see what's happening here. We need a little more yogurt, a little more creamy. A little more salt, and I need to break down these chickpeas a little bit more, just to bring out a little bit more of their creaminess to them, and maybe a touch more of this lemon. The other thing I wanted to mention about the Tahini Ranch, I kept it on set just because this is one of those things, like, not that you'd want to dress these chickpeas with nothing but the Tahini Ranch, but like a little spoonful will go a long way. In terms of making this like super creamy, helping it bind, getting like tons of flavor in there. And if you've got it on hand, like honestly, you're not going to taste just like a tablespoon of it, but it will make a big difference to your sandwich. Let's see where we're at here. That's good. Top Gun is my favorite movie. He can do very little wrong in terms of like his like actual work, you know, and performances. That latest Mission Impossible, incredible.
Tread lightly.
Why?
I mean, it's just
He did his own helicopter stunts.
Oh, yeah.
So a little bit of lettuce is great, you know, just as a barrier, at least like for some of your bread. You could do it on both sides if you're like not eating it right away, if you've got a packet for lunch or whatever. Lettuce is definitely like gives you a little bit of that insulation. And then a little bit of the pickled onion, like not too much, like not enough that it's going to make your bread wet or whatever. So luckily, sandwich wrapping is like my specialty. I feel like the way that you kind of deal with a sandwich like this that wants to kind of be a little bit messy, wrapping kind of is going to help keep this contained. Having parchment paper or wax paper is like kind of key for this. You could do it with foil, but it gets a little bit clunky. It's just like bringing both ends up to the top, folding the top down, coming down on either side of the sandwich, and tucking in both sides. Once you have the sandwich kind of all contained and wrapped like this, we can take a serrated knife.
Wow. Chris has gone back.
And then just go right through it, and then boom. That just happened. Hey Claire. This is called Gourmet Makes Feel Good Food Plan. Don't worry, it's a new concept we're working on. So this is like kind of smashed chickpea salad sandwich, a little bit of yogurt, a little bit of olive oil. Started to get a little bit runny on me.
Look at that great sandwich proportions.
Oh yeah.
The quick pickle onion.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. It'd be
Yeah.
great like in a like flatbread. You can just put it like that.
Mm-hmm.
So good. Yeah. Can I take this with me?
Yeah. All right.
Chris.
Thanks, Claire. Cool. That's lunch. Cool.
Who do you think is the best station partnership in this kitchen?
Oh, the best station partnership?
Yeah.
It's Molly and her empty space, where she gets to spread out every day by herself. I think that's the kind of platonic ideal for like kind of like station, kind of like breakdown there.
Sometimes you just need a little you time.
Oh yeah,
you know?
for sure. Yeah. I mean, not me, obviously. I'm so happy to be with Andy all the time. He's not here right now though, so we can like actually speak plainly. Yeah, I'm surprised he didn't sort of jump into the back of the frame here, wearing his, there's a shoot going on jeans.
Right.